The next speaker is the Battalion Executive Officer, Cadet Hyeon-Seung with My Story.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before I speak today, I have one thing to confess. I have a new draft of narration right here in my hand. I wrote it this morning. Therefore, this speech will be disorganized, and it may not be as eloquent as it could have been. And before I start, I must give a sigh, as Major Kyo requested. For the last 5 years I spent at Carson, I witnessed numerous changes. And to just give you the numbers, I had seen 4
Different presidents. Excuse me. 4.
Be loud. Yo, just use your big boy voice. Big boy voice. Big boy. Just start yelling. Big boy voice.
I'll continue. Now, to continue, I had seen 4 different presidents over the last 5 years. I had to say goodbye to 16 or more faculty and staff, and other minor changes. With those changes, I was fairly convinced that this place has become a different place from what I knew in my first year. In my sophomore year, I was Skyping with my mother, and I was trying very hard to convince my mom that this place is not the place we knew when my brother was here and when I was here in freshman year. My mother usually argues me back, but this time my father says something to me, and he rarely makes comment to me or says something to me, so I usually take my father's words seriously. And if I translate what he said to me in English, it may sound awkward. What he said to me was, "The sense does not change." I didn't reply to what he said back then, but I took a moment and meditated on it, as Ms. B says often. And I thought about it for the last 2 years, whether he's right or I'm right. And here is my conclusion. Of course, my father was right. Now, to help the audience understand what he really meant, I believe what he meant was Carson is the same place as I've known, regardless of my feelings or preconceptions. Hold up. Yes, so after giving a thought on what my father said, I agreed to him, and I agreed to him because Carson has always been a school where young boys can learn. Now, some of you might look at me crazy because it is a school, of course. But I say this, I emphasize this, because it is different from any other schools. It is a school where young boys come and become men. And many of you might have heard this phrase, "We come here as a boy and become men." I would like to explain that to you guys today, because it is important. When people here say, "I became a man," I believe that means we finally recognize what person we are, and we finally understand what we like or what we dislike. We understand our strengths and weaknesses. And Carson is the best school that I knew to teach that to young boys. So why is that important? No, actually, let me explain that first, how we learn about ourselves. There are a few differences between CLMA and our homes. It is middle of nowhere. But besides that, if we fight our friends or teachers back at home, we can go back home and forget about what happened at school. And also, we have our secret weapons called parents to call the school. At CLMA, we don't have parents, although some seem to have a way of that still. But that's Konosuba's issue, not my problem. When you don't have parents to fight for you or argue for you, you have only one choice here at Carson. Because whether you like your peers or not, or teachers, you look at them, you have to talk with them every day. When you confront them from morning to night, and you have problems with them, you have no choice but to resolve that issue, whatever you have. And the only way to do so is to think about what you did or you said, instead of what others did to us or said to us. And that makes a big difference between boys and men. Not all of us here achieve that, unfortunately, but many of us happen to do so because we get stuck in situations so many times. After complaining about what others said or did, we eventually think about what we did or said to others and hurt their feelings or teachers' feelings. It is difficult to do so, to think about us rather than others, but it makes us stronger. So why am I saying this today? It is important for both parents and cadets to understand that, because there is a value. There is a value in attending Carson, because that is the lesson that we may not ever learn in any other places, any other countries. South Korea supposedly has a great public education, but they never taught me that. They only taught me numbers. I wanted to tell parents how difficult it is at Carson to be a cadet and student. It is painful, but it is worth it, I think. For the underclassman who is not clearly listening to me right now, which is fine, I wanted to give some faith in you about this place. I hear you complain about this school every day, which I did and which I still do. But I never see you trying to understand the rules here we have, trying to listen to the teachers, peer leaders, trying to try anything here Carson has for us, really. Not for the school, for us. I don't see many people do that anymore. And to me, it is a pity that cadets here are losing the opportunities to learn and become men. That is why I'm speaking this today. Not because I want to look as a leader. I wanted to share my thought, and I wanted you not to repeat the mistakes I made. It took me 5 years to realize that. Now, I would like to recognize and thank certain people. I would like to recognize my cadet leaders and colleagues, even though it doesn't mean anything. Cadet leaders here do a lot of work, but unfortunately, parents are not too concerned about that. They're worried about rather our diplomas, which makes sense. I would like to start out with our 3 company commanders. I was going to write a recommendation for all 3 of them to be Cadet of the Year, Well, I was busy watching Game of Thrones. I owe you an apology. Now for Smith, as he confessed, he curses a lot, he talks a lot, but he really had a tough building this year, 49, and he had tough building chain of command as well. But he really stepped up, and he dealt with them in his own way, because he developed his own leadership style for the last 5 years he spent here. I wanted to recognize him for that. Now, Paharding Beacon Commanders has 2 buildings, 2 platoons. He has the only company that has 2 platoons, and it is difficult. And he didn't have first sergeant as well. So I would like to recognize him. For Sindoni, he had junior high building, and junior high building is a struggle every day, every morning. Now, parents do not know what happens in junior high building because you're not supposed to know, and you should not know. But you must remember one person dealt with all those problems, what happened in Willow Hall this year, and that is Sindoni. And he deserves people's appreciation from us.
Now with the battalion staff, because I was the chief of staff, that was my title, I owe them both appreciation and apology. The staff this year, messed around, we did. Our rooms were not always clean, and we weren't always helping the building officers necessarily. We sometimes led the horsing around, but we took charge. The battalion staff this year was professional. And what I mean by that, by professional, we didn't wear a tie every day, but rather we did our job with responsibility. No, actually, they did, the staff. Although they were professional, I wasn't always professional with them due to my personality and arrogance. And I do owe them tremendous apology. And I would like to recognize them individually, whether they care or not. Now, starting with Allison, our S1. Now, S1 deals with the disciplinary orders. He knows who gets in trouble in the school. So he has some power. He has some information. Now, many people just may see him as a clerk who does paperwork. But one day I saw him talking to people who are struggling, who are having problems in OD's office. And he was very serious, although he's not usually. I saw a different side of Allison, and ever since then, I've been very impressed by Allison. And not many people know what he has done as S1. Now with Johnson, he is the one staff member who surprised me, Major Q, and First Sergeant Bloom by the most. He was the most reliable S2 I've ever seen, and I hope he knows that. Now, regarding Lesher, he knows he was a good S3. Without Lesher, it would have been very difficult for me to be XO. Now, he will admit that he was not great. He was not the greatest in the building, but he was the best down in that department. For both Kong and Centeni, they were good S4s. I'd like to thank Centeni for stepping up in the middle of the air. And for Kong, although many people may look at this differently, I believe he did the right thing. He made his own choice, and he should not be ashamed of his choice. I wanted to say that to Kong. For Wood, he says he doesn't do much as S5, and he's wrong. He did a lot of He coordinated a lot of projects like military ball and dining in. And wood needs to be pushed sometimes, but he does what needs to be done. So I'd like to thank him for that. Sergeant Major worked with the color guard every single morning we've been here. I mean, every single morning. And I see some commitment from that. I don't know if that worked out though. But. Yes. And lastly, for Choi. Just to avoid confusion, I'm not interested in men, but Choi has been a gift to me. When I came here, I did not expect another Korean student, same age, same grade. He came here my second semester in my 8th grade. And ever since then, we went through a lot, maybe too much, together. He's been a brother to me, maybe more brother to than my actual brother, because we've seen each other more than I actually saw my brother. He was there. He listened to my complaints a lot. I want to say sorry for that. He said it's okay. I hope I helped him to survive CLMA as he helped me as well. I have many faculty to thank you. I'm not going to go over the individuals since we're running out of time. I know who you are. I will not forget what you did for me. I will pay back somehow in the future. For my brother, who's not here, he always set the bar high for me. He always gives me motivation. He always pushes me. And someday I would like to work with him in the future, somehow. For my parents, I am sorry for my mother, since she could not live with her only 2 sons for a decade now, because we were too ambitious and we wanted to study in the States. Although my father made the money for that, my mom definitely deserves my thank and apology. And for my father, he could have bought different things instead of paying tuition for a decade. I would like to thank him for that. And I'll see them after graduation today. Thank you.